veggie pizza with
update
extra
your
cheese.
department head agenda.
Okay,
Enough said.
so I had a taste of it, you know.
Diane wants
I mean, I like marinara sauce
Yeah.
with stuff on it, you know, but she liked it. But it was big. It was a 12-inch pizza for $12.99. It was big. Their fries were great. Just load it.
Are you ready? Okay.
Good evening.
Really.
This is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. We're here for a governing body meeting, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Dunn is present and presiding. Councilmember Osman. Here. Councilmember Rawlings.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison. Here. Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Asseltine.
Here.
Councilmember Sippel.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Phila.
Here.
Thank you. The next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So as you're able, please rise and we will face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is the approval of the agenda. And although we had a document 8A addition, I don't believe there are any modifications to the agenda. So I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move for approve?
Second.
Motion from Mr. Rawlings, second from Mr. Sippel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Under citizen comments, one individual is here to accept the proclamation, which I will do momentarily, and another is here to speak on the mill levies. So when I open that public hearing, I'll invite you to come forward and do so, please. Next item is the proclamation for Constitution Week, and we have Jackie Aaron here to accept, and I will.
Yes. I brought with me another member of my chapter. This is Jillian Pence, who is our.
If you could talk into the microphone, that way it'll be on the record.
I am Jackie Aaron. I'm the regent of Sagamore chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. That's the DAR chapter chartered here in Leawood. Thank you for considering the Constitution Week proclamation. It's coming up this September 17 to 23rd. And my colleague, Jillian Pence, who is our Constitution Week chair, will like to make a few remarks about Constitution Week when you indicate.
All right, I will read this into the record, and then I would invite you to say whatever you'd like. So we appreciate you both being here. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. Whereas September 17th, 2023 marks the 236th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting and proper to afford official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. Whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Peggy Dunn, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Leawood, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week in the City of Leawood, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. And I would like to present this to you, or either one of you, or both of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Powell.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, and don't forget to ring your bells on September 17th at 3 p.m.
At 3 p.m.?
Yes.
All right, we should all go outside, I presume, and do it.
Yes.
All right, very good. Well, we appreciate all you do with the Sagamore chapter, the DAR Sagamore chapter, and you're very helpful to our city and our community, so thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Presentations and recognitions. We have introduction of a new employee, Janna Raper, budget coordinator, who actually was here once before, if she looks familiar.
Yes.
So, Mr. Cobby, would you like to do the introduction, please?
It'd be my pleasure. So Janna Raper came to work for us again, having been here before in the finance department. She comes from Olathe Public Schools, where she's been both the budget person and the manager there. Two-person department, but it's still managing and a lot to do. So with that, I'd like to introduce her, and also, she didn't know, and I'm going to make her do the presentation. No, just kidding. But she's been on staff for about 3 weeks, but definitely she's jumped right in and been impressive so far, and I expect that'll be the case.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Cobby. Ms. Raper, would you like to say a few words?
Mayor, council members, thanks for having me. As Dawn said, my name is Janna Raper, and I'm thrilled to be back with the city working in the finance department as the new budget coordinator. I think I got really lucky on the time to come in as the budget coordinator, because as you know, the hard work has been going on for the past several months for the 2024 budget. But if you have any questions at any time that I can answer for you or track down an answer for you, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Ms. Raper, remind me, what was your, I know you were in finance, but what was your role prior?
So prior, I was in accounts payable.
Accounts payable.
Yeah.
Well, we're delighted to have you in this new role and back with the City of Leawood. So welcome back, and we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
And thanks for coming tonight. We'll go now to item 7A, which is special business, and we're going to have a public hearing, after which we will consider a resolution approving the levy of a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate for the City of Leawood, Kansas. So I, at this point, would like to open the public hearing and ask for any comments on the revenue neutral rate. Now, I'm assuming that this individual who signed in would like to speak at this time, so I will recognize you, Howard Alshouse. Did I say that correctly?
Howard Alshouse, yes, thank you.
And if you could state your address for the record,
That's
please.
4704 West 112th Terrace in Leawood, Kansas.
All right, very good, thank you.
Okay. I'm not a public speaker, so if you don't mind, I'll read.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, since 2018, city taxes have averaged 8.8% every year. Population of the city during this time is essentially flat. Inflation from 2018 through mid-year 2023 has averaged 3.8%. On page 31 of the proposed budget, it states the property tax assessments are estimated to increase from 21.3 to 28.9 million, a 35.5% increase over 22. Expenses for the same time frame will decline from 68.9 million, 58 to 58.4 million. The combined result will move the fund balance from 50% of annual expenses in 22 to 66%. Also on this page, it's noted that, and I'm quoting here, since 2000, the revenues have exceeded projections each year by an average of 4.2%. Since the same time, expenditures have been lower than projections by 13.3% each year, on average. In government, the standard is usually 1 month of expenditures, 8.3 to 15%. The governing body has set a goal of 11% for minimum for operating fund reserves. To get to the reserves to a level of 40% for 2023, which is more than 3 times the governing body's recommended 11%, the mill levy for 2023 should be 10.96, not 23.5. This would generate $12 million based on the assessed value of $1.18 billion. Adding to this, the estimated sales tax for 2023 is $19 million, other revenue of $17 million. Combined with the beginning balance of the year of $32.5 million, it would be $80.6 million. Expenses are $57.7 million. This will result in an ending fund balance of $23 million, or 40% of the annual expenses. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Oshouse. We do have a presentation on the budget that will be given by staff, but that was the only individual who signed in to speak on this at this public hearing. So I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing, seeing that there are no other residents or public that would like to speak.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phila, second from Mr. Hazeltine to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. Mr. Cobby, are you going to be the one presenting?
Yes, I'll do, and I think we've kind of lumped all these issues together
So
that
I
you'll be
think
considering
we'll
tonight.
hear from you, your presentation, before we consider the resolution.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
So on the, I guess it's pulling that up. Okay, there we go. So we have just a brief overview of the annual budget, and some of these slides you've seen before, and when you consider this in committee, a few of these we've tried to update and provide some more information, but definitely a high-level review of this. We won't do the 2 or 3 hour sessions, so otherwise people start throwing things at me. So the first highlight, we'll go over the revenues in the 2024 budget. The proposed budget is a decrease in the mill levy from the last year, which goes from 24.077 to 23.5 mills. We did have a slight shift in the mill levy from the general fund to the debt service fund, and the debt service fund will slowly increase over the next few years for planned debt. Sales taxes were revised in 2023, and there is positive growth in 2024. We'll show a little more detail on that. And then increased interest earnings will be more than triple the actual 2022 revenues, and an increase of just under $1 million, and hope we can do better than that, to be honest. So that's something we're working on. The quick overview of the revenues: 43% of all funds revenues are from property taxes, with another 32% from sales and use, and then all others equal that last 25%, and we have that broken down there. The total for 2024 is $72.7 million, and this does not include transfers. Property taxes, as I mentioned, we do have a reduction in the mill levy. The property tax valuation from the county is about 11.9% increase in the valuation. That was provided by the county clerk, but we did adjust that slightly for one item that was before the Board of Tax Appeals that we fully expect to be approved if it hasn't already, and we adjusted down for that for it being exempt. The published 2024 budget hearing notice reflects the lower valuation than what we had put together originally when we were working on the budget. We got those final numbers in, and I think we told you at the time it would reduce the balance slightly. That's exactly what it's done, but percentage-wise, it's not very much of a change from what we showed you before. For the mill levy, based on the 23.5 mill rate, as you can see that the average appraised value of a home in Leawood is $757,000. Based on that, the taxes for the city's portion, not everyone's entire tax bill, but the city's portion of the taxes would be $2,047. That is a difference of about $211 a year over last year, and a difference of about $18 a month. And we did the calculation also based upon the median value, the same calculation, which for a median value is $661,000. The tax on that for the city's portion is $1,786, and the difference would be about a $142 increase, or $12 a month. And I believe you've seen this chart before, but I think it does show that the appraised value of the homes in this, or what's going on in the sales in the market, sales tax values tend to lag behind that, partially because of the nature of how they're assessed. It takes about a year. The other is the county, when they set those, does not have to be exactly on market. They can be to a percentage of market, and typically they run lower of that. So one of the reasons the appraised value for the 2022 mill levy, you can see the difference between those two values, but they are going up. The revenue neutral rate, and most of you probably know this by now, but in 2021, the legislature passed what we lovingly refer to as Senate Bill 13, and that bill basically allows or requires the city to vote to exceed the revenue neutral rate, which is determined by the amount of revenue that was collected in the prior year and what rate that would be if collected in the next year. So for a quick chart I have here is you can see what the 2023 budget was, and the taxes that were levied for 2023 were $28.5 million. In the 2024 budget, if we only levied that same amount, $28.5 million, the mill levy would be lowered by 2.56 mills, or a rate of 21.517. Instead, we had proposed in the budget, if the mill levy was maintained as a flat mill levy from last year, that would be a total increase of 11.9%, or 2.56 mills. And you can see that it would increase, the taxes would increase to $3.4 million. The budget that was proposed and that you're considering tonight shows that same amount, except that the mill levy is at the 23.5 mills. That is a reduction of 0.577, and the amount of revenue that's collected would be, over last year, would be about 2.6 million. So I know it sometimes gets confusing on the revenue neutral rate, but it's really based upon the actual amount of revenue collected the prior year. So that's the reason for the spreadsheet, I guess. To give you an example, and I tried to update this as of today, so the numbers in yellow are people that are considering their budget, I believe, tonight. I think the three that are on here all have meetings tonight. All the rest, I believe, have been adopted. These are the cities of the first class with the 10 lowest mill levies in the state. As you can see, we fall, right now we're falling around fourth. I'm sorry I didn't have the highlight quite right on that, but we're right in there with Shawnee, Olathe, and Leawood. And then there's kind of another tier that pops up with Leavenworth, Lenexa, and Prairie Village. So out of the lowest in the state, as you might imagine, 6 of the 10 are actually in the county, and 7 of the 10 are in, actually 7 of the 10 are in the metro area, with Florence being close as well. So we are not out of completely, we're really the leaders on the mill rate in the area. And the mill levy history, just a quick snapshot. You can see that this is a reduction down to 23.5 is the first real reduction that's been taken Purposely, some of those have happened in the past because of when the rate was set. There's always adjustments from that for numerous reasons, but this rate is the first purposeful reduction in the last 10 years. Another quick snapshot is city sales taxes. Yes, these sales tax numbers are increased up from what was proposed for, increased over the last several years. One of the big things that you see here is from 2020 to 2022, a major increase in that green line or the use tax line, and that's because of a change in state tax law, which allowed for third-party collections of sales taxes. So it's kind of, people refer to it as the Wayfair amendment, but that things were passed through, bought from the third party through Amazon. Amazon now has to collect that as a sales tax. That has increased revenue, but I think, as you can see in our projections and the actuals, that we've kind of reset now that base. We've had more than a year and a half of those collections, and a pretty predictive base based upon what we're seeing in current revenues. The sales tax in 2023 was a 2.6% increase, and in 2024, we're showing that as a 1.5% increase. And use tax is 2% in 23, and we're showing that as 1% in 24. And year to date, we're pretty close to those numbers. We're up a little bit, but we're definitely not seeing the increases that have happened in past years. Next is expenditures for 2024. The total budget, this is general fund expenditures. You will see that we are estimating our expenditures of about $57 million. The largest, 67%, the largest portion is for personnel, with contractual services being at 25%, commodities at 7%, and debt service at 1%. This is departments by all funds, not just general fund, all funds. You can see that where the general fund is a large portion of everyone's budget, but that with capital funds and projects for public works, that number, they have a significant number of those projects in their budget, and more than their actual operating expenses in a year. So the highlights for the 2024 budget are the $2 million that has been added to personnel expenditures to implement the compensation study, and that will be done. I believe we started down that road at the last meeting, and to implement those changes. 2 decision packages were added, decisions packages were added. $645,000 was for the addition of 5 new full-time position and 1 part-time position. And then there's $1 million in decision packages for 19 non-personnel additions. And most of those are, 90% of those are one-time expenses, meaning they don't have the carryover. So the carryover is around $90,000 to $100,000 a year of ongoing, but 900,000 being the one time. Advanced technology improvements are included in some of those decision packages and other initiatives. Project management software has been included. Recodification of the city code, fleet and software, facility software package are the highlights of those, and personnel changes. These positions are funded in the 2024 budget: building inspector, GIS coordinator / tech, IT specialist, the fire division chief of EMS, a parks maintenance administrative assistant, and then a part-time planning intern. The new positions would bring the FTE total to 308.3 FTE, and a total of 275 full-time positions. About $2 million, or the $2 million in compensation studies in there, obviously for personnel. The 5% increase for merit increases and other compensation are calculated into that number. And health insurance costs are budgeted about a 10% increase. And a couple other items of note in the budget. You approved earlier this year to spend the ARPA funds on public safety salaries. And so with that, we're able to spend about $5.2 million on projects and freed up funds for other projects, and those are included in the budget in different funds throughout the budget. Just a fast snapshot. I know that you'll all have this memorized right away, all those numbers, but the ending balance is projected to be $74.2 million. That is a 75% ending balance from all funding sources. And you probably note that expenditures are $99.6 million and revenues are just about $81 million. So we have a lot of one-time revenue. One of those big ones being spending down funds, and the Economic Development Fund is the major cause of that. And then just quickly, the CIP is also, you will be considering those projects are in the CIP or those over $250,000. Construction of new facilities, renovations, repairs that are comprehensive and non-routine are included. And then you'll see that we have about $129 million in current and proposed projects over the term of the CIP. 51.9 million is in current investments that are under construction or otherwise committed to projects. And about $26 million will be in 2024 investments. And I think that's it. You want me to stand for questions later, or?
No, I think now would be good. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Covey. That was
Yep.
a great overview, and you really did abbreviate what we spent hours and hours with the Budget and Finance Committee discussing. So thank you for that. Questions for Mr. Covey? Mr. Sipple?
I had two, Madam Mayor. When you speak with the people in the county assessor's office, do you have a sense that more or fewer people in 23 are appealing their taxes?
I think I would say probably more, but that number it can vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Some other jurisdictions last year saw double digit increases in there, and Leawood did not. So sometimes that's the thing that sparks it on. I will say the only other thing I've heard anecdotally is that Kansas City, Missouri, and the valuation issue over there has people not that upset about 12% when they see those numbers on the news, but I think they still have been about the same, if not a little bit up. Boda, though, however, is catching up finally from COVID. They got so far behind, so feel like they're on top of that a little bit better, and we're not seeing those appeals later.
Okay, thank you, sir. I had a second question. Do you know if any municipalities in Johnson County chose not to exceed their revenue neutral rate?
I do not know of any that chose to do. I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
Put it that
That
way.
was
The
my
only city I
understanding
knew
from-
that was actually even thinking about it was Leavenworth, and I believe that they actually ended up exceeding it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Covey from anyone? I guess you did a great job explaining everything.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
Mayor,
Ms. Bennett?
just to be double safe, in case somebody came in after we picked up the public sign-in sheet, I might ask that you ask if anybody wants to come and give testimony as the statute requires on the RNR, just in case they miss the sign.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on our budget? If you would, please raise your hand now. All right, it appears that we've heard from the individuals, so, all right, thank you. So now I would like to consider the resolution approving the levy of a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Phila. Was that Mr. Asseltine?
It was a tie.
A tie. I'll give it to Mr. Asseltine as a second. Any other discussion? All right, we need a roll call vote for this, so If the city clerk would please call the roll.
Councilmember Kane.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison. Councilmember Rawlings.
Aye.
Councilmember Osman. Councilmember Phila.
Aye.
Councilmember Larson.
Aye.
Councilmember Sippel.
Aye.
Councilmember Azultine.
Aye.
All right, it's approved unanimously, and this isn't when you need all of our signatures, it's the next one?
The next one.
The next one, all right, thank you. So now I'm going to open, this is 7B, open a public hearing and have any comments on the proposed 2024 budget. And the public hearing is open, and Mr. Alshouse, I assume your comments are reflective of this item as well. So, all right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? This is the comments on the proposed 2024 budget. If so, please raise your hand.
Seeing none and hearing none, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion from Ms. Phila to close the public hearing and a second from Ms. Larson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The public hearing is closed. Thank you. And now we will consider a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2024 annual budget. And I do want to express my appreciation to the Finance Committee, our city administrator, and all who worked on this and bringing us a 0.577 mill levy decrease for 2024. So thank you for that. Is there a motion?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion from Mr. Rawlings, second from Ms. Harrison. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. And we'll,
I had a couple words, whenever.
yes.
I just heard a lot of chatter in, out in the public, received emails in regards to increases in assessed valuations and the subsequent increase in property taxes. And I'd just like to point out that Leawood, I'm very proud to be on this body and to have participated in all these budgets through the years. Leawood is one of 2 cities in the state of Kansas with AAA credit. And there's a lot of discussion out there about the reserves. It's like, oh my God, they're raising our taxes and then they're keeping all this money over here in reserves. Well, there's 2 kinds of reserves. There's general fund reserves, which is a minority of the reserves, and then the majority are in debt service reserves. And those debt service reserves actually save us money by getting us that AAA credit rating and saving us interest and principal or interest costs over decades. And the other way it saves us money is that we are able to bond street projects to where they don't deteriorate to the point where they need complete reconstruction, which is extremely expensive. So, and I'd also like to point out we're in a 3-way tie now for second lowest mill levy, from what I see on the graphic. And the median house in the city of Leawood pays $149 a month for all of the services that we provide, and I just think that's a bargain. So I know in the aggregate it seems like a lot of money. The other thing that needs to be said is that Leawood is landlocked, and at some point we will not have that incremental revenue increases as a result of growth in the city. And so that's something else that we consider when we put budgets together. But this is my last budget, and I wanted to say that I'm proud of how we've done through the years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. 7C is to conduct a public hearing and consider a resolution approving the 2024 to 2028 capital improvement program for the city of Leawood, Kansas. And so I'm going to open the public hearing on this item and ask, is there anyone here who would like to speak on this? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing no one, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion from Ms.
Second.
Phyllis, second from Mr. Asseltine. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The public hearing is closed. Now we're going to consider a resolution approving the 2024 to 2028 capital improvement program. Is there a motion?
Move to approve?
Second.
A motion from Ms. Villa and second from Ms. Larson. I would just add again, we've had multiple meetings on our capital improvement program, a document, as has the Planning Commission. So it's not like there's been no discussion. There's been a great deal. Ms. Villa?
I too want to just make a comment that I think that we have an amazing public works organization. We are always constantly keeping our infrastructure, whether it's stormwater, our streets, or our building maintenance, and the professionalism which that is done, and the dollars that are managed, and the review of all vendors for their completion and their successful work done, and also the bidding process. It truly is a well-oiled engine, and I'm very impressed every year when I look at the millions of dollars that are spent on our roads and our infrastructure, and it makes us a city of first class for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Asseltine?
Thank you, Mayor. During his presentation, Mr. Kabe alluded to the $129 million in current and proposed projects, and I'd just like to point out that when we do our capital improvement program, we do it over a 5-year period, but we're only committing money for that current year. And so the actual number in current investments under construction or otherwise committed, and by otherwise committed, that means, again, we're bonding a lot of these street projects, which saves the city money, and that some of that money, that's debt service that's being committed, is counted in that 52 million. So we're not spending 52 million on capital improvement in the current year. So, and we're not committed to spend 129 million over the next 5 years. So I just want everybody to realize that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Oh, Mr. Osmond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to piggyback on the sentiments of James's comments, because we have an incredible staff, and as this is my last budget as well, I found it kind of ironic today. I get on Twitter a lot, and I look through all the posts, and there was another municipality on the other side of the state line that tweeted something out about an hour ago from Kansas City, Missouri, saying how proud they were of doing over 3 miles of lanes on State Line Road. It looks great.
It does look great.
But there is a reason why Mission Road was the way it was for an extended period of time. I proceed to call our staff. David Lay was very forthright with what exactly happened with State Line. The funny thing is, Johnson County Wastewater has to rip up that street next year. We, as the city, saw the forthright to not do our public infrastructure just like Mission Road, at the same time saving our residents and the taxpayers' money, but also having the county contribute to improvements. And so we have a nimble staff that could recognize a problem, see it, and shift our budget to not do certain things or do certain things in a timely fashion, whereas Kansas City, Missouri will have to rip up this street next year. So just something that I'm proud of our city and our staff for that.
So it's something for us to look forward to on State Line next year.
Always.
No comment.
Get some aspirin.
Any other comments on this resolution? We do have a motion and a second. If there are none, All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 7D is to conduct a public hearing and consider passing an ordinance vacating a right-of-way located at approximately 82nd and Wenonga Road within the City of Leawood, Johnson County, Kansas. Petitioner Christopher Miles. I'm going to open this public hearing and ask, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this item?
Seeing none and hearing none, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion from Ms. Villa to close the public hearing and a second from Ms. Larson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. Now we're going to consider the ordinance vacating the right-of-way located at approximately 82nd and Wenonga Road. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion from Ms. Villa, second from Ms. Larson. Is there any discussion? Ms. Villa.
I would love if Mr. Lay might educate us a little bit what's going on this, I'm guessing, low spot in the road.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
If you could just give us the background on why this donation is being, this vacation's being made.
Okay, so the property owner has a fence that's in the right-of-way. It was built quite a while ago, and the right-of-way, here I actually have the aerial I can show. If we get that up on the screen. There we go. So the trapezoid there at the bottom right of 8225 Wenonga, the yellow trapezoid there, the property owner, that's right-of-way currently. The property owner, or not this property owner, but in the past, they installed a fence in this location, and they were wanting to replace the fence, but they are not allowed to because it's in the right-of-way. And so we are looking to vacate the right-of-way because we don't really, as you can see along 83rd Street along the north side, it's just a straight right-of-way which follows the street. And then whenever we have infrastructure that goes outside that, we get easements to be able to get access to that area. And so we will be vacating the right-of-way, and then on the consent item, there are two easements for this location, a utility easement and then a drainage easement. So we will have this area covered that we will still have access to it.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Do we have a motion to approve?
We do. You made it.
Yeah.
And we have a second from Ms. Larson. Is there any other discussion on this? All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Osman?
Aye.
Councilmember Azaltine?
Aye.
Councilmember Phila?
Aye.
Councilmember Kane?
Aye.
Councilmember Sippel?
Aye.
Councilmember Larson?
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings?
Aye.
Councilmember Harrison?
Aye.
All right, it's approved unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes our special business, and we now move on to 8A through O of consent agenda items, and I'll ask, is there anything anyone would like to pull for discussion? Ms. Kane?
8C as in Kane.
All right. Mr. Rawlings?
8L is in Larry.
8L. All right. Anything else anyone wants to pull? If not, I take a motion to approve the remaining portion, please, of the consent agenda.
Move to approve the remaining.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Kane, second from Mr. Azaltine. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you. 8C is a resolution accepting the new GASB 34 public infrastructure in accordance with GASB 34 guidelines of reporting inventory of assets for property located at 4201 West 147th Street, east of Del Mar. Ms. Kane.
Yes, Mr. Lay, when reading this as Chair of the Public Works Committee, I've never heard the phrase cul-de-sac bulb before. What, pray tell, is a cul-de-sac bulb?
So the street was constructed by the Pavilions of Leawood, and so it currently just ends in a 26-foot wide street. And so the property owner wanted to build a house on that street, but they didn't have the right-of-way frontage, so they built, which is pretty much just a circle, to complete the cul-de-sac.
So there wasn't a picture, so I wasn't able to quite figure that out. So it just means instead of a square at the end, they made some kind of larger radius for fire trucks or whatever. To
Exactly.
be able to turn in. Thank you, that's all I had. Just never heard that before. Had you guys heard that before?
The light bulb on the,
Yeah.
So did you want to make a motion
The bulb
to,
that threw me off. Move to approve.
motion for Ms. Kane, is there a second?
Second.
Second for Ms. Harrison. Any other discussion on this item? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Kane. 8L is approved the purchase of vehicles from Shawnee Mission Ford in an amount not to exceed $512,977. Mr. Rawlings?
thank you. David, a couple of just curious questions. I noticed that we tried to order some things back a couple of years ago, and Ford canceled it, maybe because of COVID issues or whatever. And now, I'm curious because now there's a possible pending strike by the United Auto Workers, and one of them is the Ford plant. Are these vehicles in their inventory, or are they going to have to be ordered and get in line, and is it going to be an issue?
And these vehicles are custom ordered, so they will be manufactured, and we won't receive them until 2024.
Okay.
So this is just in order to get on that list, that we have to provide a PO so we can be on the list for builds next year. But until we receive a VIN back, we are not guaranteed the vehicles, so they can cancel them at any time.
But at least this will allow you to get in line.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Move to approve.
Second?
Motion from Mr. Rawlings, second from Ms. Villa. Is there any further discussion on this item? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, it's approved unanimously. Thank you. Moving now to the item 9, the mayor's report. I participated in the Leawood Chamber ribbon cutting for Regain Functional Medicine and Aesthetics, which is located at College Boulevard and Ash Street. And they've recently remodeled this space, and it's very beautiful. So I encourage you all to go see it, see what they have to offer, and we wish them much success. I attended the Blue Valley Educational Foundation Annual Community Breakfast with council members Kane, Harrison, and Sipple, and City Administrator Diane Stoddard. And the focus for the upcoming year is the importance of good mental health for all of us, but especially our students. Congratulations are in order to the Leawood Rotary Club on their 10th annual 5K Labor Day Run Walk that was held yesterday, and I was joined by Rotarians Chuck Sipple, Lisa Harrison, Jim Rawlings, and Diane Stoddard, as well as 400 participants. It was beautiful weather. Our police department did a great job directing traffic, and I understand it was an all-time record in revenues raised. I don't have that amount, but
That's what we heard.
with 400 runners and walkers, it was great, a great day. So congratulations to the Leawood Rotary Club. That concludes my mayor's report. We have no council members' reports this evening. Is there any city administrator report, Ms. Stoddard? Just briefly, is your mic on?
Sorry.
That's all right.
Just briefly, Mayor Dunn and members of the City Council, on behalf of the staff, I want to thank all of you for your great leadership with the budget and the capital improvements program this year. You had so many nice comments for the staff, but I want to laud all of you for all of your work and direction related to the budget. And I know when we talked about the budget in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting in late June, it was pointed out that you all, a number of you, this will be your last budget, and how many budgets cumulatively you all have approved, which is just enormous number and very impressive. And I want to draw attention to your great leadership and the support that you have been able to provide the staff in letting us serve the community and do so with such great guidance that has led to us having such a great credit rating and be in such a great financial position. So I want to thank all of you for that.
Well, thank you for those comments. And of course, the governing body as a whole serves as the committee, but we've also got some very dedicated and willing and eager citizens who serve on the Budget and Finance Committee every year and do so graciously and honestly anticipate a phone call from me asking them to. So thank you for your nice comments. Much appreciated. The staff reports we have in our packets in our consent agenda, so I hope you took the time to read those. Move now to 13, committee recommendations, 13A, and this is from the Stormwater Committee, Councilmember Phila, regarding a recommendation on the proposed changes to the FEMA floodplain ordinance template. And are you going to discuss this, or are you going to call on Mr. Lay to assist?
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the recommendations for the proposed changes as proposed by our staff. They were gracious enough to take us through a full meeting to help us all explain things like Zone X and Freeboard and many other things that you may want to or not want to know about. But I certainly was impressed with the level of the volunteers' knowledge. We have professionals on our staff, and they're all nodding their heads and knowing what their staff is talking about. And it's really a delight to continue to learn from our staff and our professionals on some of the things that we're doing. So if there's any questions, I'm going to defer to our department head, Mr. Lay.
Well, you just made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Ms. Harrison. And now, Mr. Lay, do you have any comments you'd like to make? You don't want to educate all of us like you did the committee? Oh, thank you.
Got two questions.
Mr. Osmond and Ms. Harrison.
Thank you. David, I'm going to put you on the spot for a quick second. So I have different properties that I own in floodplain areas, certain on the cusp and on the outside. I'm going to use 103rd and State Line as an example. That's in the floodplain. You can buy insurance through FEMA, but for a certain amount. But I'm noticing there's a different criteria, this Zone X or whatnot, that is not in the quote unquote that area. Do we know from an insurance standpoint, if it's dedicated floodplain, but it's not on the map, from a property owner insurance standpoint, how are they going to classify that? Will they be able to get insurance on it? Have we thought about that? Or
So for the Zone X?
Yeah.
So the Zone X is not a regulated floodplain by FEMA. And so that is not, property owners are able to get insurance at a discounted rate because it's not a requirement. It's more of an at-risk property.
And so you can get it, you don't have to go straight through the government. You can get it through your insurance provider.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Harrison.
Thank you. I would just second some of what Deborah said. I've learned more from sitting on this committee for the last, I don't know how many, 5-6 years than any other committee assignment that I've been on. And I'm so thankful that we have maybe half a dozen professional engineers who give volunteer time to our city to provide us with information that we might, to answer our questions, but also sort of to back up what our staff is saying and to ask the harder questions that those of us that didn't go to engineering school wouldn't have the knowledge to ask. And I'm so impressed when I sit at that table every month. Well, not every month, but most months. And, you know, this is just another example of our residents volunteering their time for the better of the city. And we are so lucky that some citizens have made an effort to do that, and I think it makes us all better, and it makes our staff better. So I'm just using this as a chance to say thank you to those half a dozen engineers. Breakfast is usually really good, and the meetings are usually just an hour. And I've learned more about the Ames map, which is fascinating. You can kill a lot of time looking for floodplains and other information on the Ames map. So check it out if you're bored one day. It's better than Netflix. But thank you again, David, for all that you've brought, and Brian too. I mean, when you guys are so well prepared for those meetings.
Thank you. And yeah, we do have a great committee, as everyone knows, so great residents that volunteer their time.
Yes, and thank you for acknowledging them. They're another group that is eager to say yes when called upon, and actually all of our volunteers are in the city, so thank you. Ms. Phillip?
I always have thought that stormwater is the Rodney Dangerfield of skill sets and focus. And one of our professionals said, nobody thinks about that unless A, you've had flooding at your house before, or B, you're a stormwater engineer. It is, it just doesn't get the respect of like the other ones.
All right, if there are no further comments, we do have a motion and a second to accept the committee recommendation. Seeing no other hands, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lay. Thank you, Ms. Philla, as chair, too. We have no old business. We now go to 15, new business. Schedule a governing body meeting on Monday, September 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Move to approve.
Motion from Ms. Kane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Sipple. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's approved unanimously. Thank you, and having no further business to come before this body, we are adjourned. Thank you.
All right.